drasha before Shabbos Hagadol, you said that the point of, or one of the parts of sprinkling the blood was almost to symbolize the mizbeach. It's kind of like the same idea. So maybe that ties into this somehow. Just trying to tie together what you said in the past.
Right. So I think that was last year where I suggested that part of the Pesach rituals turns our homes into a mizbeach. And one example of that is the blood that's sprinkled on the doorpost. There's also blood sprinkled on the mizbeach when there's a karban. Okay, but so we're still stuck with this question, right? What does God need the blood? So if you look at Rashi now on source number 3,
I think that to put the blood on the post door is for not, it's for them to do something, not that, like you said before, God did everything for them. In this case, they need to do something for themselves,
Exactly.
Maybe.
Exactly. So if you look at Rashi, source number 3, that's correct, Chana, exactly. Rashi, source number 3, says as follows: V'haya hadam lachem le'ed, and the blood shall be unto you for a sign. It shall be to you for a sign, and not to others for a sign. From this we may learn that they put the blood only inside their houses. So this makes it even more interesting. The blood was not on the outside of the house. God did not need the blood to know who was Jewish and who was not Jewish. Who needed to see the blood? Bnei Yisrael, right? They needed to see the blood themselves, and this speaks to the nature of a partnership, right? It's interesting that we often compare Pesach and Purim, or contrast Pesach and Purim, and we say that Purim was all like the people; they did all the work, right? And Pesach is all God, right? And we say that in the Megillah of Megillat Esther, there is no mention of God at all. And while in the Pesach Hagaddah, there's no mention of Moshe. There's one slight mention of Moshe, but not much. Okay, so when we look at it that way, we seem to be saying that Purim is the holiday where we are actively involved in our salvation, and Pesach is the holiday when we are not really involved in our salvation. That it's all God in the salvation. Okay, but if we look at it this way, it actually comes out a little bit different. Here, the Jews had to do something, right? They had to be active participants in their redemption in order for the redemption to happen, and they had to sort of make a statement, which was only a statement for themselves, that they were Jews. God, of course, did not need that. So that's the first sort of hidden theme, which I want to point out in the Hagaddah. While normally we think of the Hagaddah as the whole Pesach story as something which is very passive, there is an element of partnership that exists in the story. There is an element of partnership that exists in the story of Pesach. The Jews have to take an active and deliberate role in their redemption. And it wasn't just putting the blood, right? In order to get the blood, they had to first go get a sheep, and then they had to slaughter the sheep, and they had to gather the hyssop, and they had to smear the blood of the lamb on the doorpost. Right? This is all for them. This is all to show, and maybe to give them their first lesson in what it means to be Jewish. That they had to take an active role in their redemption. Okay, that's sort of hidden theme number one. What would be interesting is to see where we find sort of elements in the Haggadah that sort of back up this idea, and where we might find elements in the Haggadah that are not in keeping with this idea, right? We have elements in the Haggadah which may seem to contradict this idea. The idea of Ani velo malach, Ani velo saraf, right? It's just God without an intermediary, without anyone else. Yet on the other hand, Moshe plays an active role in the story of the redemption. There are stories of bravery, and there are stories of the Jews, continuing to the story of Yocheved, who told her parents that they have to continue to have children, even though Paro's henchmen were killing the boys. So you have this sort of balance, sort of give and take, this back and forth in the Haggadah between sort of inaction and just sort of sitting back and waiting for God to do everything, and the notion of the Jews helping themselves. Again, normally we think of Pesach as a passive story, but I don't think that's the only way to look at it. It seems like there are other elements in the story as well that could lead us to a different conclusion. Okay, so that's one meaning of the word Pesach, meaning the word Pesach doesn't only mean to pass over. It also means that the blood of the Pesach also is an element of partnership. Okay, let's move on. Let me just unmute you all. Anyone have any questions? Anyone have any questions on that first idea that the Pesach is this notion of partnership between God and the Jewish people, and that we may find elements of that in other places of the Haggadah as well? Any comments or questions? Last chance. Anybody? Okay. Let's continue then. Okay. The next theme we have in the Haggadah is this notion of protection, because we have the word Pesach, or the root of Pesach, appears elsewhere in the Tanakh. And if you see source number 5, you see that it appears in the Sefer Yeshayahu. Ketziparim afot kein yagen Hashem tzivaot al Yerushalayim ganon v'hitzil pasoach v'himlit. Like the bird that flies, even so will the Lord of hosts shield Jerusalem, shielding and saving, protecting and rescuing. So Pesach doesn't only mean passing over. It doesn't only mean an element of partnership. It also denotes an element of protection, which is a higher level than passing over, right? When God passes over, it's passive. But it sounds like what's happening with the idea of protection is that there's something bad that's coming, and God is actively protecting the Jewish people. Okay, so that's a little bit more than the idea of protection. So let me ask you this. I'm going to unmute you and ask you again. By the way, some of you, depending on how your screen is configured, some of you may see a raise hand option on your screen. And if you see it, you could use it to raise your hand, and then I will know that you want to ask a question. And I could acknowledge you, or I could see that you want to make a point, and I could acknowledge you. Okay, so where else in the Haggadah do we see this notion of protection? Is anyone raising their hand?
More, just a second. More, maybe?
Is there a hand?
Yes, raise your hands.
Chana, excellent. Where else in the Haggadah do we see the idea of God's protection?
The plagues.
The plagues. Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying. Meaning the only the Egyptians suffered from the plagues, and the Jews didn't. Okay, that's an excellent one. So excellent. Okay, Tanya.
Right, lower hand.
Well, also when we finally left Egypt,
Yeah.
throughout the desert, it was time after time, and each time we kind of doubted the next time that it would work out.
Okay.
איפה עוד רואים שאלוהים מגן על בני ישראל?
Okay. Good. So the post Exodus, once we left Mitzrayim, right? God protected us in the desert. Excellent. Even though we didn't believe him that he was going to do it, and we kept questioning him. Excellent. Okay. Anybody else?
He protected us crossing the sea.
Okay. Excellent. He protected us crossing the sea. So we see a lot of this. One of the most well-known elements of God's protection in the Hagaddah is in Pesach is that there's a nickname. There's a special nickname that the Leil HaSeder, that the night of the Pesach Seder has. And that nickname is Leil Shimurim. Right? You may have heard that. Has anyone ever heard that phrase before?
Yes.
Leil Shimurim.
No.
Leil
Yes.
Shimurim. Seder night is also called Leil Shimurim, which means the night of being the watched night, the protected, right?
Shamar.
The protected night. Okay, and by the way, that's why there is a minhag on Pesach night not to say that some people have a minhag not to say Kriyat Shema al Hamitah, not to say the nighttime Shema, because we are protected. There's an additional element of protection on that night. And there's something else there's two other things that we do on that night, which seems to indicate this idea of protection. One is we say Kol Dichpin Yeseh V'Yechol, right? We open up our doors and let anybody in, right? We're not concerned with who we let in. We don't do any background checks, right? We don't call the person's rabbi. Anyone who wants to come in, Kol Dichpin Yeseh V'Yechol. And then towards the end in the middle of the Magid, we also, what else do? We open the door and we say out loud, Shefoch Chamatcha al Hagoyim. Right? Very strange, right? We call out for God to pour his wrath on the Gentiles, which is not something which we normally do, and but it's all part of this notion that we like sort of throw caution to the wind, and we are protected. And that's what the word Pesach means. And that all derives from this pasuk that you have on your screen in source number 5. That the word pasoach means to protect. That God protects us like a bird, like the birds that fly. And there's a beautiful midrash that explains the way that God protects us. There's a pasuk that says "Va'asa etchem al kanfei nisharim." Okay, I bore you on eagle's wings. That is also from Sefer Shemot. Let me just get that pasuk for you real quick. This is the beauty of learning online here. We can get the pasukim very quickly. This is Shemot 19, pasuk 4. Here you see it. I'll give it to you in Hebrew and in English.
On my phone.
It says right here. Hopefully you see this on your screen.
No.
Atem ri'item asher asiti limitzrayim va'esa etchem al kanfei nisharim va'avi etchem elai. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. Okay, so I have a question. My question is, why is it eagle's wings? Why is the eagle chosen as the bird that God uses in his metaphor of how he saved the Jews? Eagle's wings.
Because God is very patriotic.
Okay. So this is a prequel in the Torah of God. I did see, by the way, an article this week. I just saw the topic of the article. I thought it was odd. It said that Israel and America, or America and Israel, are God's chosen people. I thought that was strange, but very Christian idea. But so that's Sophie Lee's take, that God was very patriotic. So even before there was an America and before there was the bald eagle, God foresaw that. Okay, any other suggestions?
Rabbi, you hear me?
Majestic.
It's
No.
majestic. Okay.
Majestic and powerful and powerful.
And strong.
Majestic. Okay, excellent.
How do I talk?
Okay.
Hello?
Stuart?
Mr. Stewart, do you hear me?
Yep.
Well, eagles also protect their young when they're in their nest.
Okay, eagles protect their young in their nest. Good, excellent.
Also mate for life.
They're what?
Eagles mate for life.
They mate, monogamous.
Oh, interesting. So maybe they're monogamous. So maybe maybe that's an indication of God's complete devotion to us. Excellent. These are all great answers. Doreen?
Eagles carry their young in a way that protects the young and puts themselves at risk, unlike...
Okay, excellent. Doreen just taught us a midrash, which I have. Excellent, Doreen. And the midrash is source number 6 that you have right in front of you. It's only in English. I apologize. I will read it and translate. Everyone see the midrash?
In Hebrew.
In Hebrew.
In Hebrew, I'm going to read it and translate it. We're starting on the second. Can you see my cursor moving, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So right where the arrow is, davar acher va'aseh etchem al kanfei nisharim, and I bore you on eagle's wings. Ma nishtana. Oh, that's, by the way, language we should understand from the Hagaddah. Or we should recognize from the Hagaddah. Ma nishtana nesher zeh mikol ha'ofot. What is different between the nesher and all other animals? Right? Why again? So why is the nesher used in this metaphor? Shekol ha'ofot kulan notnim et b'neihem ben raglehem. All the other birds carry their young with their legs, between their legs. Mifnei shehein mityarin me'of acher shu poreach al gabehem. What are other birds afraid of? Other birds are afraid that a bird is going to come from above and take their child, take their young. So they hold their babies from beneath, from underneath. So if anyone comes from above, they will take the blow and the babies will be protected. Okay, that's the image. Aval hanesher, but the eagle, the eagle, I think the assumption here is the eagle flies the highest of all the animals, right? So who's the only one the eagle is afraid of? A human being from below. Aval hanesher hazeh eino mitzarei ela adam zeh bilvad shelo yizrok bo chetz, that the person will not shoot an arrow. Amar, so the eagle says to itself, mutab sheikanes bo velo bivno, that it's better that I will take the blow from the arrow and not my child. And therefore, what does the eagle do? The eagle puts their babies on top of their wings, right? That's why the pasuk. Now we'll flip back to the pasuk we said before, where it says, "Atem ri'item asher asitim va'aseh etchem al kanfei nisharim." How I bore you on eagle's wings, right? The eagle puts the baby on top because there's no one from above who can hurt the baby, only from below, and so the eagle protects the baby. And so is God saying that I'm going to completely protect you. Mashal, and then the Midrash gives an example. Mashal echad sheyam halech baderech. Right here, where my cursor is, it can be compared to a person. Compared to a person who was walking on the way, and his son is walking before him, in front of him. Bo listim, So some robbers come to harass him from the front. So he takes his child, who was walking in front of him, and puts him behind in order to shield him from these listim, from these bandits. Then a wolf comes to attack the son from the back, from behind. And then he moves the child from behind him to in front of him to shield him. What's he supposed to do now? He has bandits in front of him and a wolf behind him. He puts the child on his shoulders. So the image is whatever is going to happen, the parent is going to scramble to do whatever they possibly can in order to protect their child. So similarly, God will do everything to protect us. So we have this notion of protection. So Pesach, now we add another element of the word Pesach. So now we have Passover, we have partnership, and now we have this notion that it also means protection. The idea of Leil Shimurim, we call it, right, the night of the protected night. We open up our door and we're not afraid, and we don't say, customarily, many people don't say Kriyat Shema Al Hamitah, the nighttime Shema, all because of this idea of Leil Shimurim. Okay, that's another element of the word. Any questions or comments? You could use the raise your hand function if you want. Doreen, do you have another comment? Is your hand still up from before?
No, I don't. I need to take that down.
I did it. I got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment or anything on what we said so far? Okay, great. Let's carry on then, and let's look at another theme of Pesach, where, according to some commentaries, the word Pesach actually connotes compassion. Okay, if we look at another verse, which I'll have to show you in a moment, chapter 12, number 27 in Exodus. Chapter 12, pasuk 27. Another place where the word Pesach appears, right here. Ve'amartem, zevach Pesach hu laHashem, asher pasach al batei b'nei Yisrael b'Mitzrayim, b'nagfo, excuse me, hold on, sorry about that. B'nagfo et Mitzrayim ve'et batenu hitzil v'yikod ha'am v'yishtachavu. This is a pasuk from Shemot. It's also a pasuk that appears in the Hagaddah. Okay, and you shall say it is meaning the first verse, the verse before that, 26. And when your children ask, "What do you mean by this rite?" Meaning, on the night of the Karban Pesach, when you bring the sacrificial lamb, what is the purpose of this? Why are you bringing this Karban? You will say it's a Passover sacrifice to the Lord because He passed over our house. But if we look at the Ibn Ezra's commentary on this pasuk, which is source number 7 in the book on the page right in front of you, what does it say? Va'amartem matzanu pasuach v'himlit. He quotes a verse from Yeshayahu that the word pasuach is like v'himlit, to escape. V'ta'amo kimo chemla. Uba'avur shehashem chamal al bichorehem ba'avur dam haseh nikra haseh Pesach. So Pesach doesn't only mean, according to the Ibn Ezra, to pass over. It means that God had compassion on us, right? The notion of compassion. Now, it is very similar to some of the other things we saw before, protection, but compassion seems to me to have like a a gentler message or a more proactive message, right? That God had compassion towards us, and that, of course, we should then, in turn, show compassion to others. And that's one of the neat things about looking for hidden themes in the Seder, or in the Hagaddah, is that we could do two things. We could try to find these hidden themes, and we could also try to find ways to implement these themes beyond the Hagaddah, beyond the Seder night. This notion of compassion is important, and it actually dovetails well. Actually, I was thinking with something that we learn about, one of the mitzvot that we have regarding Pesach. I just thought of this connection now, the notion of compassion and another theme. There's another theme that we have in the Pesach Seder, and that is the theme of turning outward. Okay? Again, Pesach is about celebrating the redemption, but even before Pesach starts, right, we are obligated. I'll ask you this question. What's the first mitzvah that we have that appears during the year regarding Pesach? Maybe it's the first, not the first, but what's one of the earliest mitzvot that we have regarding Pesach that comes up even before Pesach starts?
Cleaning.
Say again?
Firstborn.
Cleaning?
Cleaning. Okay. The truth is, cleaning for Pesach is not a mitzvah, believe it or not. Right? Searching for our chametz is a mitzvah, and destroying our chametz is a mitzvah, but that only comes in on Erev Pesach. This mitzvah even comes in before Erev Pesach.
Fasting
is also, that's half a day later, good, but that's
How
only
about-
on Erev Pesach too.
How about before Pesach? Just in davening, when we say like Hashem et Yisrael me'ad Mitzrayim, because we're remembering that God took us out.
But that's true, and there's a mitzvah. You're right. There's a mitzvah to remember Yetziat Mitzrayim every single day, but that's not a Pesach mitzvah. That's a daily mitzvah, right? We're obligated to remember Pesach every day. That's a daily mitzvah. Anybody else?
What? It's what?
Yes. Anybody else?
Where?
Anybody else? Early mitzvah that comes in even before Pesach.
אני לא יודעת מה להגיד, מה אני זירנד, אני לא יודעת מה להגיד.
Doreen, your hand is up.
Is it the one that we do on Purim, which is the Matanot Le'Evyonim, we give a donation so that people in need can buy food for Pesach?
Okay, excellent. So Matanot Le'Evyonim on Purim is not for Pesach. That's actually to give money to people on Purim. Right? Matanot Le'Evyonim on Purim is a mitzvah to give money to people on Purim. However, then you said there's a mitzvah to give money to people for Pesach. That is called Ma'ot Chitim. And you're 100% right, Doreen, which literally means wheat money. Wheat money. What does that mean, wheat money? It meant for give people money so they could buy wheat, so they could have matzah for Pesach. And it's become a general mitzvah to seek to give charity before Pesach, so people can give money. And so if you look here in the Mishnah in Pesachim, Perek, source number 10, you have it in front of you on the page. Arve Pesachim samuch lamincha. On the Pesach Eve, close to Mincha time, lo yochal adam ad shetechshach. A person should not eat until it gets dark. And then the part that we're concerned with, the afilu ani shebi Yisrael lo yochal ad sheyesev. Even a poor person in Israel must not eat on the night of Pesach until they recline. And then v'lo yifchatu lo me arba kosot shel yayin v'afilu min hatamchoi. that even if normally there's an amount of money that the tamchui, which is the communal chest, if you will, gave out to each poor person. It was 2 meals a day. But on Erev Pesach, they had to give extra. They had to give enough so people would have enough for the 4 cups of wine. That's one of the earliest representations of the idea of giving ma'ot chitim, giving money to the poor before Pesach. And we see it expressly stated in the Orach Chaim, in the Shulchan Aruch, which you have on source number 11. She'ein noflim al pneihem kol Nisan. Now we don't say Tachanun during Nisan. Stuart, that's for you.
I was waiting for that.
Okay. And then we see Shoalim b'hilchot Pesach kodem Pesach shloshim yom. For 30 days before Pesach, we're supposed to be learning the laws of Pesach. And then the Ramah, the Ashkenazi, adds, uminhag liknot chitim l'chalkan la'aniyim l'tzorach Pesach. And it's customary to buy wheat to give to the poor for Pesach. The Chomisha Dar Be'ir Yud Bet Chodesh Tarich Litain Lazeh. Another interesting fact is that according to halacha, you are obligated in the city's taxes once you've lived there for 12 months. Right? Anyone who's lived for 12 months has to give for this. Then you're considered part of that city, and you have to contribute to the poor of that city. So there are 2 halachot that seem to apply 30 days before Pesach. That's what I said, so early before Pesach. Right? Not just Erev Pesach for the fast, and not just Erev Pesach for searching out and burning our chametz, but 30 days before Pesach, which is already passed. What's 30 days before Pesach, by the way, on the Jewish calendar? Purim. Purim, exactly. Right? So that's when you know it's time to start learning the laws of Pesach on Purim. So 30 days before Pesach, we're supposed to make sure that we are collecting money for the poor. And that is part of this idea, Gesundheit. That is part of this idea of turning outward, right? And the same idea that we had up here about compassion, that God had compassion on us, and we in turn have to make sure that we have compassion for others so that they could have a proper Pesach. Okay. I have one more hidden theme in the Hagaddah, but I want to see if there are any questions or comments so far on this last theme, on this notion of turning outward. And by the way, we have examples of this, of course, in the Megillah, in the Hagaddah. Kol dichbin yeseh v'yechol. Anyone who wants to come eat could come eat. Right? We have that's the first thing that we say before we even start the Seder. We invite people. We want to make sure that everyone has a place to go. Any comments on this notion of turning outward as a Pesach theme? One comes to my mind, actually. The mitzvah of Karban Pesach requires that all of the meat has to be eaten. Right? I don't know if you knew that, but when there was a Karban Pesach, one was not allowed to leave over any of the meat. And in order to do that, depending on the size of your family, generally you had to before Pesach figure, and everyone had to have at least a kazayat. So you had to be some sort of expert, or maybe there was a store you went to and you said, we're going to be 15 people. How big of a seh, right? How big of a Karban Pesach should I buy? And so in order to actually finish all the meat of a Karban Pesach, it usually meant eating in a chabura, right? Eating in a group. Like we have big sedarim, although probably not this year, but we normally have big sedarim where we invite all sorts of people. That's a throwback to the fact that a lot of people were needed in order to finish all of the Karban Pesach. So that's also this idea of turning outward, right? We don't just have ourselves and look after our own spiritual needs on Pesach. We are forced almost, because of the Karban Pesach, to do it with other people. That's another aspect of turning outward. Okay. One more theme, and that is the theme of turning inward, which you see here on your source, source number 12, right? We have, as some of you mentioned, we have the obligation on Erev Pesach to do bidikat chametz, right? Which is to seek out the chametz and destroy it. And that's the Mishnah right over here, Pesachim Aleph, or la'arba asar, on the evening of the 14th of Nisan, bodkin et chametz or haner. We search the house for chametz by the light of the lamp. Every place into which chametz is not brought does not require searching. And the next Mishnah, I believe it's the next Mishnah. Actually, let me see if it's the next Mishnah, because it would be a good Mishnah to see. Hold on, give me 1 second. Maybe it's the Gemara that says we're supposed to look into the chorin and the stuckin. We're supposed to look into the cracks and the crevices, right? If you have a mouse hole in your house, you have to look in there for chametz. And if you have, places behind your shelves, you have to look there for chametz. And behind your cabinets, you have to look there for chametz, right? We have to do a very thorough job of seeking out chametz. Now, that's true. That's a mitzvah. We take it literally, and we seek out the chametz. But chametz also, throughout history, has had a historic, symbolic meaning attached to it. Okay? And you see that in the commentary of the Baal HaTurim on source number 14, where it says, Lo ta'aseh chametz, right? This is the pasuk in Vayikra that says, I'll show you the pasuk here. Lo taseh, oh no, that's not it, excuse me. You cannot make your matzot chametz, obviously. Why? And here the Baal HaTurim gives a symbolic reason. Everyone want to say hi to Lily? Lily's home. She's just running by. Here she is.
Hi, everybody.
They're all muted.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Now they're unmuted.
Hi, Lily.
Oh, and here's the Rebbitzin. Okay.
Hi, Gabby.
Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay. So if you look at the Baal HaTurim, he says, Lo t'aseh chametz lefi sheyetzer hara. Listen to this. Lefi sheyetzer hara domeh l'seor. The evil inclination is like leaven. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Why is the evil inclination like leaven? Any takers?
Could you repeat the question, Rabbi, please?
Yes. Why? Ooh, is that your baby? That's a great sound. Why is the Yetzer Hara compared to leaven, which is chametz?
Because it's full of itself.
It's what?
Because it's full of itself.
Because it's, who is that? Who said that?
Emily.
Emily, thank you. Because it's full of itself. Excellent. Let's look at the Baal HaTurim. We'll continue it. Lo taseh chametz lefi sheyetzer hara domeh l'seor. The evil inclination is like leaven. Umitam zeh gam kein hisir al hadivash sheyetzer hara matok la'adam kidivash. Similarly, if you see the pasuk above in Leviticus, right, you're not allowed to have chametz in your karbanot, and you're not allowed to have honey in the karbanot. So now we know why. And they're compared to each other, right? They sort of represent haughtiness and fullness, right? Because chametz rises up, right? It's puffy, right? When you let we let our challah or our bread dough rise, and that's what's happening when it's rising. It's becoming leavened, right? The yeast is doing its work, right? And so the chametz is compared to the leaven is compared to the yetzer hara. And so if you go back now to this Mishnah, or la'arba asar, on the eve of the 14th, we're supposed to check our houses for chametz. Now it has two meanings, right? We're supposed to check our houses for chametz for sure, but we're also supposed to check ourselves, right? Supposed to check ourselves for our yetzer hara, right? We're supposed to turn inward, and we're supposed to try to rid ourselves, just like we try to rid ourselves of chametz. We also try to rid ourselves on before Pesach of anything related to our evil inclination, our yetzer hara, sinfulness. And there's actually, I have a section here. You see here similarities between Rosh Hashanah and Pesach. This is one of the similarities. But on Rosh Hashanah, we're supposed to repent beforehand. But there also seems to be this symbolic idea that by removing chametz, we remove the negative or puffed up aspects of ourselves. Like chametz is something which on Pesach is considered not desirable, just like the yetzer hara is not desirable. So that is the last of the hidden themes of the Hagaddah that I wanted to share. This notion of turning inward, that there's an aspect of self-perfection that we're supposed to try to engage in, at least during the period of Pesach. We keep this notion of getting rid of the chametz in ourselves, in our minds. And so, just to review, these are some of the hidden themes of Pesach. One, we have this notion of partnership, that we weren't completely passive when we left Mitzrayim. We had to do things, and God expected us to do things. And presumably, if we didn't do them, we weren't going to be worthy of the redemption. Another hidden theme is the notion of protection, but a special type of protection, total and complete protection, like the eagle protects its young on its wings. The notion of compassion in terms of turning outward, ma'od chitim, kol dich pen yeseh v'yechol, right? Money for the poor before Pesach, and opening up our doors to guests before Pesach, and this notion that the word Pesach actually means compassion, and we should practice compassion all the time, but especially on Pesach, and that's about turning outward. And the last one was this notion of turning inward, about removing our yetzer hara on Pesach, on Erev Pesach, just like we also remove the chametz on Pesach itself. Okay, so those are our hidden themes of the Hagaddah, part one. We have 3 more parts, hopefully next week. While I have you on the line, I will share with you that every morning at 7 o'clock, with the same link that you used tonight, all the UOS programs that we have are that same link. So you don't have to try to find other links. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, we have our virtual davening, where we daven together. And we also say Avinu Malkeinu, which we've added during this pandemic to ask God to step in. And so everyone's welcome to join us for davening. We also learn in memory of those who have passed away and whose family members can't say Kaddish for them because we don't have a minyan. That's a wonderful thing to do, to come and learn together with them. So if you happen to be available tomorrow morning, no mechitza needed.
Does it run?
It lasts about 35 minutes, but you don't have to stay on the whole time. Good news is, as opposed to shul, I probably won't see you sneaking out, but I always see you sneaking out when it's regular shul. So this is a bonus. So join us if you can. And otherwise, I hope to see you on Friday right before Shabbos, where we're going to have story time for the kids and a Kabbalat Shabbat for the whole community, again, using the same link. Okay? Thank you for joining. We had 19 people who came on tonight.
Thank you
That's
very much.
really wonderful. Thank you. I
Thank
hope
you, Rabbi.
everyone
Thank you, Rabbi
slowly, I
Gilman.
know that using this platform is a little complicated sometimes, but slowly but surely we'll all get the hang of it. If you have any questions about it at all, call me, and I'll be happy to work you through it. It looks like you all figured it out great tonight, and this is the best we can do. But I can't believe you'll actually be happy to see me one day. That's going to be interesting. Okay. Have a
Thank
great
you
night,
so much.
everybody.
Good
Night.
night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.
Good night.
No, this is.